What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage. What's up, my friend?
Oh, nothing. It's so good to hear your voice, man. It's so good to hear your voice.
Post Memorial Day weekend, officially into the summer heat season. It's triple digits for you.
Yeah, you're
Um,
not that far behind, are you?
no, but we're getting monsoon-like weather up here. It's clouds are building when nothing's happening, so you get that little bit of moisture in the air, just enough to screw up anyone that's got a swamp cooler.
Oh gosh, yeah. And swamp coolers are the worst when it's humid like that.
One of the best things they ever did was buy a house with actual central AC.
Think about 100 years ago, dude, when they didn't even have anything. They just like lived in this crap.
And fans. That was terrible.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You ever think about like what era you could live in if if it wasn't like modern times?
I've always thought that I would have been a really good Renaissance, revolutionary time. That would have been my genre.
Right. Renaissance versus Revolutionary, two very different
No,
eras.
they're about the same time periods.
The Renaissance?
Yeah, the Renaissance didn't start till the late early 1700s. And
When you say Renaissance, I think of those people at the fair dressed real dorky, eating turkey legs and drinking mead.
No.
When you say Revolutionary, I think of like patriots and people crossing the Atlantic Ocean to start anew.
Yeah, no, the Renaissance is the French word for rebirth. And the medieval times is not considered rebirth. That didn't start till, in fact, the Renaissance, if we're going to get into it, the Renaissance French word of rebirth started in the late 1600s when they were getting away from the feudal system of castles and kings. And that's when the great philosophers started to think and write, and their writings from that time, early 1700s, carried into the thoughts that created the government that we ultimately established.
So at what point in time did it go from castles and kings to castles and coasters?
Yeah,
what was the time frame era for that?
Yeah, I mean, how about this? Most people would consider the Renaissance early 1700s to like the 1800s.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I should watch more History Channel.
Well, yeah, but you got to remember, I mean, that's my bag. Like, so that would be the time frame. How about this? I'll just say revolutionary time.
Revolutionary. That works much better.
Mid 18th century to early 19th century. How's that? What about you?
That works. I don't know. I've been watching The Food That Built America this week on the History Channel and the Titans That Built America, and it's a cool series they do where it's kind of like a docudrama where they talk about the Titans. Like, this is talking about the Fords and the Dodge family and everybody that revolutionized flying and the automobile at the turn of the century. And the other one about food, it talks about how food was revolutionized with pasteurization and nationwide sales versus regional sales. So it's kind of a cool era to kind of think about, like turn of the century stuff. But when I think about what eras I could live in, I'd like to live in an era with at least running water.
Yeah. I have to admit, when you're old at 24 and dying, that part does suck.
Yeah, when 24 is considered a senior citizen.
Yeah, I can honestly say anything in Roman times or Greek times, I have no interest in that time at all.
No, I mean it must be nice wearing a sheet all the time for clothes.
Yeah, but the vast majority of us would be slaves. I mean, the very vast majority of us would have been building the pyramids or doing something laborious.
Well, I do believe that pyramids were built by aliens, but that's a different episode.
Oh gosh, totally different episode.
Yeah, and I don't need our EP Tom to flip out and give me a lecture on that one.
Okay, we'll keep that out of it then.
But it was interesting though. On the long weekend, we took off, went to Williams, had a good time, and came back and barbecued and just kind of took it easy the rest of the weekend. And I watched a movie that to me is a classic, and I think it's a classic because even 20 years later, it holds up just for fun and content. And it was The Replacements with Keanu Reeves about the football team.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a cool movie, right?
I've only watched it one or two times, I think, in my whole life. I wouldn't say it's my favorite sports movie, but it definitely doesn't suck.
But what makes a good sports movie? I mean, that's the question I have. Is like, what makes a good sports movie to you?
Oh gosh,
when like nonfiction stories or fictional?
No, like the movies that I remember as a child when I would watch were like Hoosiers, Mm-hmm. Movies where you had like, David versus Goliath or good versus bad.
It's kind of like the Mighty Ducks then.
Yeah, the
Good
Mighty
versus
Ducks.
bad, David versus
That
Goliath.
was a Disney movie that I enjoyed as a younger person. I think that I think for me, it does have to do something with the storytelling, as you probably would imagine. The storytelling is very important to me.
So, okay, well, speaking of storytelling, what do you think of The Longest Yard?
Which one, the original or the one that we made with
Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler?
Yes, both.
Okay. I remember the first one was very disturbing. It was a very dark movie. I liked the second one better because at least it was a little lighter. The first one was pretty dark. I mean, that was a lot more drama than humor.
So you're saying prison life football in the 70s versus the 2000s. The one's a lot more lighthearted.
Yeah. Now, let's just say the original didn't have, Michael Irvin in it and didn't, have a bunch of players that I recognize. So that might have helped the first
That's
one.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it was a darker story. But I did like the movie. I did like both of them, actually. I think there is something like, once again, you have bad guys versus good guys, or the underdog versus the people that should, win. Like I used to like the movie The Best of Times with Robin Williams and Kurt Russell.
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Okay, it was basically the story premise is that the one football team dominated another football team in local football lore, except one season, and the underdog would have won the game, but Robin Williams dropped the catch. And so it's their trying to replay that game since the game ended in a tie. It's their attempt to redo the game 20 years later.
It's one of those. So is that a true story, or is that?
Oh gosh, no! It's pure comedy because it's Robin Williams. But but I think that a good sports movie definitely has to have the bad guys where you just think, oh, I don't like you.
Like the Mighty Ducks had the Hawks,
right?
That's who they had to beat.
And the replacements, obviously, you're dealing with. I mean, just the situation.
Yeah.
Where they're the underdog and that no one takes them seriously. And
yeah, but I think that's what sports movies are about. It's the underdog, the David, if you will, overcoming and beating Goliath and winning the day. And I think it's nice to have those out in the world because it gets people motivated. It gets people like excited to go out there and be active, and it makes them think that they have opportunities to be that person.
Well, and like one of my favorite sports movies was Miracle.
Oh yeah, the 1980 U.S. hockey team.
Yeah, I mean, and let's just be honest. I mean, that's one of those movies that the underdogs, no way they should win, no way they can win, and they do win.
Yeah,
and I think maybe that's just part of America too. Is whenever anyone counts us out, counts us like we can't do it, then we shock the world.
In contrast, Cool Runnings, another great sports movie.
Oh gosh, that was good too.
One of the most underrated sports movies out there. Granted, they don't overcome and win a gold medal in the Jamaican bobsled team, but they still crossed the finish line. And that was a story about perseverance.
Well, yeah. And maybe that was more of the telling story is there was no reason why this team should do it. And yet not only did it and they competed, that was what made the story special was that everything was against them and they still competed. And sure, they didn't win, but it can be just compelling as not winning, but doing something that no one had ever done before.
Yeah, and I think that goes a long way. Like I said, it goes back to motivation. It gives people that thought that, yeah, they can do it. They can, win the day and get the girl at the end and get the trophy. I think it's, it provides hope.
Well, yeah, and I mean, aren't we driven by that, right? We're
so.
Never out of it. We always have a chance to do something else. I mean, if we lost hope, it'd be a pretty boring story in our lives, right?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, once you lose hope, what else are you fighting for?
I'm trying to think of a sports movie where the people that should have won did win and destroyed the little guy. I'm trying to think of one that it made me feel like, oh, I feel so much better now watching that.
Oh, I don't know if there's one out there.
How about this? It may not be that inspiring.
Well, I have to think if there's one out there, it's the sequel. That means the team that was the underdog in the first movie is now the top dog, and now they're letting their arrogance get ahead of them and makes them fall apart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way I can think of that scenario flies in a movie.
Yeah. I mean, like I was just thinking about Rocky. He in the first movie he lost.
Yeah.
So the guy who should have won, but the story was more of what he overcame to try to at least compete. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I guess Cool Runnings is that same theory, that same philosophy. Yeah. I mean, they didn't win. I mean, the teams that won, but they weren't supposed to be there. So it's another. I get Rudy, another perfect example.
There you go. Yeah. That's a good example. It's the journey to get there, and to realize that the journey was worth it at the end.
Yeah. It's. I don't know. It's a fun getaway for a little while. And Disney does a really good job of taking the true stories and making them into movies and making them movies that you can watch over and over, like Miracle, The Greatest Game Ever Played, an early Shia LaBeouf movie about the U.S. Open, the first American U.S. Open winner in golf at the turn of the century.
Well, even Tin Cup. Remember Tin Cup?
Oh, yeah, I love Tin Cup with Kevin Costner.
They were talking about that, and he was all upset on that second or last hole because he screwed it up so bad, and the woman just said it best. No one is going to remember that you lost by one stroke. They're going to remember your hole in one. Yeah. That's what they're going to remember. You know what I mean? On the last ball. So yeah, you're right. I mean, there's something about what sticks in the memory of people when they watch sport movies is sometimes the undercurrent lying story, not the who won and who lost.
Yeah. What sticks out most about Tin Cup was about ego. When he kept taking that drop because he kept thinking he could make that hit.
Yeah, make that he shot, thought he could drive the hole. He just said, I can do this. I can do this. And they were like, just take the win. You're up by whatever, 10 strokes or whatever. And he said, no, I can do this. And, he lost, but he won because he did it and he got a hole in one.
That's still a case. That's still a movie I quote from time to time. Whenever you get a case of the Shanks.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a classic movie. So what would you consider your favorite all time? Well, you said Miracle, right?
It's one that I can watch anytime and I feel really good about it and I really like it. I do like Hoosiers a lot. I don't know why. I think it's just a simple story, but there's so many underplots going on that one that make me feel good.
Yeah.
I do like Draft Day though. I got to admit, I like Draft Day.
Yeah, that's a lesser known Kevin Costner. It's still very good.
And that's one of those ones too where I watch it specifically when it happens on the draft.
Yeah.
The day of the draft. I only watch it it's kind of like my Jefferson. I only watch it on 4th of July. This is the only thing I watch on the draft day.
Oh, seriously? You actually watch that every draft day?
Every draft day, yep.
Wow. That's a bigger commitment to that movie than I'd ever want to make. I have it on my Vudu, and complete transparency. But I got it as one of the complimentary thanks for signing up for Vudu movies.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's one of those things that we all have something. I don't know. Do you have anything like that where you're committed to doing it on a certain day every year, no matter what? Just it's going to get done, whether you've seen it once or 1,000 times.
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, for me on the 4th of July, it's the Nathan's hot dog eating contest in Jaws.
Okay, so you've got so you've got it too. It's just different things, but same concept.
Yeah. No, I get it. I feel you on that one.
I know. Speaking of sports, though, I had a little bit of an exciting experience this week.
Oh yeah, what'd you do?
On the spur of the moment, total spur of the moment, Noreen and I bought tickets to a playoff game for the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers.
You talking about the blowout game the other night?
The blowout game the other night. We decided, Noreen, I don't remember what we were doing, getting ready in the morning, and Noreen, came to me and said, I know this sounds weird, but I've never been to a basketball game. How would you like to go to a playoff game?
That's a hell of a way to start it.
Sure. Yeah. Like, okay. So we went online and we found tickets, and, we've had these kind of conversations before about how much money would you spend? Is there something that you'd spend money on? And the tickets were a little bit more than I've ever spent for a sporting event.
Yeah.
But that being said, the experience was so awesome that we said, boy, I don't know why we haven't gone to a basketball game sooner.
Well, in fairness, though, for the last 10 years, the Suns have been terrible.
That is
Arguably
true.
the worst franchise in the NBA over the last decade.
They definitely have been pretty bad.
Yeah, statistically, they've been one of the, if not the worst team. Poorly run, poor ownership. The owners finally got it right. The Suns are rolling, and hopefully by the time people listen to this, we are advancing to the second round against the Lakers, but they still have to beat them in Game 6 in Los Angeles, which is never an easy feat. So the Valley Boys and the Phoenix Suns are it's a lot of fun right now, man. And I was talking to my dad about it, and people don't remember what it was like in the early 90s here when the Suns had Charles Barkley and Dan Marley and Kevin Johnson, how exciting that was. And when they took over the Valley, we had the similar experience of going to our first basketball game during that peak, like you guys did.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that was a really good team.
Yeah, and we saw, I think it was the year after they lost to the Bulls in the finals, so it was still mostly the same team. But I mean, we talk about an experience. You know, it's our dad had a trainee whose parents had center court tickets like 10 rows up.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man. God. Yeah, we were on the second floor, and I thought we had pretty good seats, but we looked down and we looked at that lower level, and we were wondering what the seats were on the court. And I think Noreen said she found a couple seats, but they were like $1,500 a piece.
Yeah, and that's what I'd heard. That, you know, floor seats are in the first couple of rows were going between $1,500 and $2,000.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, for our first game, while that would have been an awesome experience because we would have been sitting next to last night. They had JJ Watt was on the first row, Kyler Murray was on the first row,
Diana Taurasi
were on the first row. We would have been sitting right between those guys.
Yeah, that'd have been pretty amazing, and that'd have been totally.
And
worth
I will
it.
say this: you've watched enough sports where it is a different experience from watching it on TV and watching it live.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it just the visual of it. Like when you watch the game from that far up, the players don't look nearly as big as they do on TV. Well, that being said, LeBron James is a huge man. That guy's like a monster.
Yeah.
He looked all the size that he was, but you look at Devin Booker and he didn't look 6'1", which
he's 6'6".
No, he's not.
Yeah, Devin Booker's 6'6".
Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me! Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, then DeAndre Ayton must be like 9 foot because he made Devin Booker look like he was 6'1".
Yeah, DA's like 6, or he's 7 foot. 7'1".
Oh boy, yeah. But there was just a different kind of vibe, and it was kind of one of those times where he said, you know what, the experience is going to be worth the extra money that we. Have you ever run into that problem? It's like, ooh, do I really want to do this for a little, for the money that I'm going to be spending? Do I really want to do this experience? Or,
yeah,
well, we decided, let's just do it. Let's just not think about it and do it. And so we did.
Yeah. And that's a conversation Denise and I had last night too. It was, experience for the price versus, practicality versus the adventure. And having to walk that fine line, I think it's, to me, it's got to be worth it. And you said it best, that they're seeing the game live or seeing it on TV are two different experiences. And I fully believe that there's something to be said about seeing a game live. But the older I get, the more I appreciate watching it on TV because you're up a little bit closer. You see everything going on. And, it's still fun for me. But there's a different vibe about the energy that's in the stadium. That needs to be experienced as well too,
Yeah, and one thing that I remember too is I don't know if we didn't have tickets. I don't even know if I would have watched the game.
That's blasphemy.
I know, but I'm not a huge basketball fan anyways, so I don't watch basketball on a regular basis anyways. But this event, we went to a nice dinner, and then we went to the show. We found parking, and then we went in, and all the people, and there was lines for all the everyone was. There's so much more than just the game when you go to those arenas that It was kind of like, yeah. See, if you just looked at it just as a game, it may not be worth the money. But when you add in all the other sounds and sights and the experience and the feeling of the crowd going crazy when the Suns won that game. For those of you who may not have been watching it, they won it pretty good, and just, you're right, it was an experience that was worth the few extra bucks that we spent for the tickets.
Yeah. The last, we had the opportunity, my family, my brother, my parents, and I have had the opportunity to go to a few different things, like Game 7 of the World Series back in 2001, 20 years ago.
Right.
We were able to see that happen live, and that was, a very cool experience. And it was neat seeing it live because we were in the upper deck on the first row, so there's nobody in front of us. But to watch the replays over the last 20 years, it's still nice to see it from that angle too, and just kind of see what else is going on in the field at that point in time.
Right. Well, and you were also at the NFC Championship game against the Eagles too.
Oh yeah, exactly. And the same thing. I mean, it's one thing to watch a game live, but seeing on TV is a totally different experience. And like I said, there's a different feeling when you're emotionally invested into a team. I think that's part of it. I could go to a Mavericks Clippers game and not give a fuck. I could care less who wins. I got no dog in that fight. There's no emotion.
Yeah.
There's no emotion in it for me. But
right.
I was born in Arizona. My first sports experience was a Phoenix Suns game or an Arizona Cardinals game, Phoenix Cardinals back in the day. So I worked for the Diamondbacks in college. So I have emotional attachments from my youth to that. So that's what, drives me to be a fan. And now that Vegas is getting the Raiders, or has the Raiders, and the Knights are amazing, and they've been amazing since day one, I'm getting that emotional investment up there too. And it's a cool feeling to see it take off and that vibe catch on,
Yeah, the only thing now I have left to see is a Phoenix Mercury game I've seen.
Oh yeah.
I've seen I shouldn't say I haven't seen ASU play, so I haven't seen them, but I've seen Grand Canyon go against my Seattle U. I've seen all four major sports now. The only thing I have left is the Phoenix Mercury.
Oh well, they play down at the Madhouse on McDowell, Veterans Memorial Coliseum. So
there you go.
That should be a lot of fun. I think they have to finish the audit first before they're allowed to play. I'm not sure.
Well, I will say this too, Scott, is I'm watching a show that's called it's a show on Showtime, but I'm watching it on Amazon Prime, and it's called Billions. And I don't know if you're familiar.
Is that with Billy Bob Thornton?
No, Billions is it's a story about the district attorney of New York going after a hedge fund manager who he thinks is doing insider trading. Oh. So Damian Lewis from Homeland is playing the hedge fund manager, and then Paul Giamatti plays the district attorney. And so it's kind of a back and forth, but one of the things that you and I are probably getting closer and more realistic in is, we're doing better in our careers. We have a little bit more expendable income. So the thoughts of spending, X amount of dollars 10 years ago and spending X amount of dollars now is a big difference, right? I mean, it's like not as much of a pressure. Well, one of the things that in one of the episodes is the hedge fund manager is thinking about spending an ungodly amount of money to buy a house. And at some point, he's a multi-billionaire, the hedge fund manager, and he says this great quote. And pardon the people, we have this as rated R, but he says, "What's the point of having fuck you money if you never say fuck you?" And that just resonates in my head. That at some point, you can't take it with you, right? So at some point, you've got a value to say, you know what, I'm going to spend a little bit more money, but I'm going to have the experience. And so that's kind of the balance that we have to find when we talk about tickets to sporting events or tickets to go on a travel. At some point, it's like I can't take it with me, so I'm just going to do it, and I'm not going to think about the money, and I'm going to remember the experience and not that I spent X amount of dollars.
Yeah, and I think the balance of that is you have to balance. You said it best. We're a little bit older now. I have to save now, so I have something to hold on. So I have something to help keep me going later on. Versus knowing that stuff I've been saving for is happening now. Like I need to start doing this stuff now while I can, and I can enjoy it. And I need to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, because I mean, we probably both know people that basically outlived their money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that did not live. I mean, their money outlived them. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they had so much money that they couldn't spend it in their lifetime. And so, why? Because they never got past that. Every once in a while, I just want to spend the money. I don't want to think about, I could have put it into savings, or I could have.
Yeah, that's something I've always got a problem with. Is whenever I make a big purchase, I hem and haw. Like, once I know I'm going to do it, I'm going to change my mind 4 or 5 times, saying I'm not going to do it. But once I finally do it, I feel good about it. Like, I'm happy with my decision. And
I'll tell you, Scott, I was impressed when you redid your floors, because that is definitely not a small purchase, but you did it, and I was like, wow, there you go, Scotty. I mean, just get them fixed, get them ready. That's great.
Yeah, that's just part of you just have to bite the bullet sometimes and look at the long-term value of the home in this case versus shitty carpets.
Yeah, and the realization too is some experiences. If you go in knowing I'm gonna have to pay money to go to a Raiders game this year, then that helps ease because I want the experience of the Raiders game. So I just need to be prepared that it's going to be a lot more money than I'm used to buying tickets for with the Cardinals. But I'm going to do it.
Well, I want that experience of the Raiders game. I'm perfectly fine waiting a few years until Arizona comes to play there before I try to shell out that kind of money, because it's going to be expensive regardless.
Oh, so you'd rather do it if the Cardinals are playing there?
Oh yeah, like when we went and saw the stadium tour a few weeks back, they were saying that their tickets for opening night available, but they're starting like $2,400-$2,500.
Yeah, it's a little too much.
And you know what? I like the stadium. I like the Raiders. I don't like it that much.
Yeah. And we've had podcasts, remember, where we talk, would you buy first class? Where would you spend your money? And $2,500 for one ticket isn't quite there yet for me too.
Yeah. No, I'm not there yet. I have to have a very good weekend in Vegas on the tables, and I don't do that. So there's that answer.
Well, one of us needs to win the lottery so we can help the other one buy tickets to the Raiders game. Okay.
I appreciate that sentiment. I appreciate that sentiment a lot. I hope it's one of us. I definitely do. So if you have an experience with a sporting event that you think would be fun to share, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have a sporting event experience in Denver or the Denver metropolitan area that you think Tom should experience, hit him up on liquid_EP at Twitter and Instagram.
See, that's the problem with transplants, though. They're loyal to, like, Tom's loyal to.
I think he might only be up for grabs in hockey. He's definitely Cardinal red and Diamondback Sedona red and Phoenix Suns purple and gold, or purple and orange.
Well, we'll be playing the Denver Nuggets. So if everything goes well, we'll be playing them next.
Hey, actually, I'd rather play Denver than Portland. I'll tell you that much. But we have to get there first.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's take care of business, though.
One game at a time.
That's right.
All right, my friend. Why don't you take us out of here?
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate Jason. And as I say, just have yourself some Liquid Carnage.